This is CTV News with Scott Roberts.
Good evening. Breaking news in Surrey tonight, where firefighters have been battling a large house fire. Let's go right to CTV's Allison Hurst, who's live at the scene on 103rd Avenue. At Allison, 4 people were inside the house at the time.
A grandmother, a mother, her 8-year-old son and 1-year-old daughter were all inside at the time. The fire chief tells us that they did get out safely and they have been taken to Surrey Memorial as a precaution. Flames quickly engulfed this home near 103 and 143rd Street. Fire crews say they had to operate defensively as it was not safe to go inside when they arrived. From this video, you can see why. Flames jumped to the shrubs next to the house and were threatening the Jeep in the driveway. It appears to have started in the garage and spread to the house. Neighbors say they heard an explosion and then the smoke. It happened at around 1:30 this afternoon.
I heard a huge explosion, a very loud, low rumbling. And I knew something was wrong right away. And I was scared. There's a Jeep parked right in the driveway, and the fire started on the shrubs. So I was worried that the Jeep might get on fire as well.
The garage doors have been blown away from the home, so there was some kind of an ignition source that had enough force to remove the garage from the house. The people in the home are renting, but there was, I'm not sure if it's a duplex, but there was 7 people in all that reside in the home, so they'll be staying with relatives for the next few days.
Boy, quite a scare there in Guildford today. Allison, is there any indication yet of a cause of that fire?
Scott, fire investigators are on scene and they're now able to have a look. Let me step out of the way so you can see what's left of the house. Not much there, seriously burnt, windows blown out, and of course that vehicle in the driveway. The garage doors also blown off as well. Now, we did speak briefly to the kid's dad. He didn't want to speak on camera with us, but said he's obviously shocked, grateful his family is okay, and did tell us, though, that they don't have any renter's insurance. Scott.
Okay, thank you, Allison. 2 violent arrests are raising more questions about the use of force by police officers in our province. On the left, a partially clothed woman in handcuffs stepped on by a Mountie. On the right, Vancouver police knee a man in the back after he was falsely accused of shoplifting at a Walmart. Well, the Vancouver nursing student who was stepped on during an RCMP mental health check is speaking publicly for the very first time. Last night, CTV News was the first to broadcast that disturbing video, which is now being used as evidence in a lawsuit. As CTV's Sinjin Alexander reports, instead of getting medical attention, the young woman claims she was assaulted.
So when she was dragging me, essentially it was scraping off a layer of my skin, and I still have a scar on my nose and on my chest.
In her own words, this is what Mona Wang says happened the night of January 20th. When she was dragged out of her Kelowna apartment by a member of the RCMP.
And I was screaming for help because I was so confused, right? You would imagine in that moment when you're already so vulnerable and you need some medical attention, them telling you you're under arrest and that they're taking you to the police station.
In a notice of civil claim, her lawyer describes the events as abusive and repetitive to the extreme. Wang was in mental distress. She admits she was depressed and took some pills. Her boyfriend called for help. Court documents claim Constable Lacey Browning found Wang on the bathroom floor in a semi-conscious state. Browning repeatedly assaulted the plaintiff while shouting, "Stop being dramatic."
I thought I was going to get some help, right? But she was just saying, "Get up," and she started making threats to me. She stepped on my arm.
Browning dragged the plaintiff to the elevator while punching the plaintiff in her face. Surveillance video shows the constable drag the nursing student to the lobby, at one point pushing her head to the floor with her boot, then later pulling her up by her hair.
This is so distressing.
Kelowna City Councillor Mohini Singh.
I want to know, why was it that this RCMP officer responded alone in this crisis situation? Should she not have had someone else with her, like a professional?
In a response to the civil claim, Mounties say the actions of the officer were necessary, claiming Wang was a danger to herself and others. The investigation, arrest, and brief detention of the plaintiff were reasonable, lawful, and executed in good faith.
Because she was punching me and dragging me down the hall, pulling on my hair, saying all of these things to me, and I was just said, if you're going to do these things, then you might as well kill me because this is too much. And so she took that one section that I had said and she completely twisted it to fit her perspective.
Mounties confirm a code of conduct and criminal investigation is underway. St. Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
After 20 deaths, the COVID-19 outbreak at Lynn Valley Care Centre in North Vancouver ended in May. But what happened during those early days haunts a group of women who say they were on the inside and saw it all unfold. CTV's Michelle Murrow has the troubling details on what they describe as a heartbreaking lack of care for vulnerable seniors.
When COVID-19 crept into the second floor of the lodge at Lynn Valley Care Centre, these 6 women with elderly family inside say they found themselves thrust into what to them became mission impossible.
The moral distress for all of us at seeing what needed being done and was not being done was devastating and very traumatizing, actually.
The women who were still allowed inside in the early days back in March say the scene was one of chaos and despair. Help! Help! Althea Gibb-Carsley took this video inside Lynn Valley. At first, she expected the staff would help the senior who was crying out. No one came.
I waited for a while, probably, it's too long, but 10 minutes. And then I went and I helped her. This is a woman whose legs were caught in the rail of her bed and she was wet and dirty.
Help! The women say they tried but simply could not help everyone.
They were crying out for help incessantly for a long time, up to an hour, hour and a half.
At some point we weren't allowed to go into the other rooms. Help! I need help, and it would go on for half an hour.
With workers at Lynn Valley becoming infected or just too afraid to go to work, the women say at times they only saw 2 or 3 staff members for roughly 45 lodge residents.
She never complained.
May McHale remembers the day she went to see her mum Isabel and found her soaked in her own urine.
Her pad was not changed probably for at least 12 hours. It was bursting at the seams. She was shivering in bed and cold, and her trays, her meals were just sitting right beside her and she couldn't get them. That was the point I knew that my mother was not going to survive.
Her mum died of COVID-19 March 18th, the 8th of 20 seniors who would lose their lives to the virus before the outbreak was finally contained. We reached out to Lynn Valley Care Centre for an interview. We received a written response instead. It reads in part that the moment we were made aware of the outbreak, we did everything possible to stop the spread and providing care for our residents. Professional replacement staff was brought in as soon as possible, following a short time when we had some staff shortages. These women say what happened in Lynn Valley needs to be investigated. They're calling for accountability to make sure BC's most vulnerable citizens get the care they deserve. Michelle Murrow, CTV News, North Vancouver.
Good evening. 78 new cases of COVID-19 have been detected in BC the day after 85 British Columbians tested positive. It is an alarming spike, made especially disturbing by this video you're about to see. This was taken inside a Vancouver nightclub as patrons break the rules around physical distancing, crowding together on the dance floor, not wearing masks, even pouring drinks into each other's mouths. This just the latest example of what health officials say is a growing problem of young people engaging in risky behavior linked to many outbreaks of COVID-19 in this province. Now, health authorities have now issued an exposure warning for that nightclub as some people start to call for bars and nightclubs to be shut down once again to slow the surge of the virus before it's too late. CTV's John Woodward with our top story.
It seems like a great party, but not great timing in a pandemic. Much of this shot at Levels nightclub in downtown Vancouver last Thursday at a weekly event called Club Mumbai.
This is the ideal situation for COVID transmission.
Much of what you're seeing here is a nightmare for public health authorities.
Many people close to each other with mitigating factors where alcohol is involved, where people are very close to each other.
Dancing is prohibited by Dr. Bonnie Henry. An event spokesperson says it was an honest mistake.
With all the changing public health orders that came out, they missed one. And last week they had dancing, which is not allowed.
The video shot on August 6th was just one day before what health authorities say was a possible COVID exposure at the same club.
It wasn't that particular night. So in some ways we got a little lucky.
Not the only venue where officials have traced possible exposure. Another lounge revealed today Ivy inside the Trump Tower. All of this assigned to one Metro Vancouver councillor. Something has to change.
They need to start looking at more strict measures, either to regulate what's going on in these places, to police what's happening more effectively, and to monitor, and then, if necessary, to close certain establishments that absolutely won't comply.
Officials struggling to find a balance so they don't drive this underground. Club Mumbai off this week, promising to be back next Thursday with patrons sitting down. John Woodward, CTV News, Vancouver.
On a day with only 2 new cases of COVID-19 reported in British Columbia, scenes we haven't witnessed for 2 long months. On the left, a hair salon open for business. On the right, a restaurant offering sit-down service as the province carefully comes back online. Good evening. Mi Jung is off tonight with just a pair of those new cases today. The timing appears just about perfect. Phase 2 of BC's reopening plan is underway, and as the pandemic appears to slow dramatically. CTV's Shannon Patterson reports on BC's cautious next steps out of lockdown.
This is going to be great because it's been 3 months, you said?
3 months since Tyler Robbins had a haircut.
Looks kind of like a mushroom, top of a mushroom. Don't normally let it get this long.
He's Sean Mita's first client at his newly reopened salon in North Vancouver.
We've been planning for a couple of months the reopening phase for our business.
Customers wait outside until it's their turn. Their shoes and hands are sanitized. Every other chair is closed. The front desk behind plastic. All stylists and customers wear masks.
Customer confidence is something that's really important to us. And based on that, we wanted to make sure that when they arrived into our salon, they felt completely comfortable.
The next time you get your hair cut or colored, you could expect to pay a little bit more. Many salons have brought in what's called a COVID fee.
I think COVID fee is a great thing. You know, this industry deserves to be compensated for what they have to do to make this a safe place.
This salon bought a sterilizer for its equipment. The COVID fee here, $5.
We're seeing anywhere from about $3 to about $8 per service.
There's a lot of extras for the salon, you know, hand cleaner, chairs not being used, so I think it's fair.
When your hair looks like this,
It's too much now. I don't know what to do with it anymore.
it's worth lining up and paying a bit more. You happy?
Yeah, it feels so good. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's great. I've been waiting a long time for this. My scalp can finally breathe.
The station is thoroughly cleaned before the next customer finally gets that haircut they've been waiting for.
It's been over 2 months.
A little long for you?
Yeah, oh heavens, yes. It's wonderful to have it.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News, North Vancouver.
And as we mentioned, phase 2 of the provincial reopening also allows for restaurants to begin serving patrons in-house. But today, for one restaurant chain, it wasn't quite business as usual. This is Earl's Test Kitchen in downtown Vancouver today as diners experience their first day in this new normal. The restaurant is following provincial guidelines and seating at just 50% capacity with maximum groups of 6 people and tables spaced 6 feet apart. Customers have to sanitize their hands, and all employees will undergo health checks before their shifts. The restaurant's chief operating officer says it will take time to adapt.
There's a lot of extra precautions that are going in, and so the biggest learning is how much staff do we have to employ and to ensure that our businesses can operate under the new normal that it is today.
Other measures include one-time use menus, continual sanitizing and cleaning, and mandatory masks for workers.
We've been getting constant reminders from health officials to maintain physical distance from each other when in public. BC Centre for Disease Control recommends 2 meters. But how many of us are actually doing that? As Ross McLaughlin tells us, it can be difficult.
This is what 2 meters looks like. And how many people do you think are getting it right? Let's give it a try. Not a lot of people around, but it's a good thing too. 2 meters is more than you think. Are you doing it?
No. Some people get closer.
They get closer,
Yeah.
right? Have you been walking this far from people?
Yep.
You have. Does this seem like a little bit further than you've been estimating?
Yes. I would even step a little further back. Nothing against you personally.
No offense taken, but some aren't buying it.
Oh, you're too close.
Yeah, we know. We got a tape measure. We measured before we started.
Well, it's almost impossible here, and this is one of the wider sidewalks.
I've been trying to go this far, but it's kind of hard with the people on the bus. The seats are not this far apart.
And even outside, if you can find an open public bench, 2 meters feels far apart. Good. 2 meters.
There is a construction site for the city right down there, and there is no social distancing at all.
They're all grouped together in the distance until they all scattered pretty much when we saw this snip coming, didn't they? An assistant professor of organizational behavior says it's in our nature.
We're sort of evolutionarily hardwired to connect with other people, and so it goes against our nature. But, you know, it's something that I think a lot of people realize increasingly so that they'll have to do.
Our leaders set the example. And the rest of us?
Socially supporting each other, but also kind of holding each other accountable is one way to help that.
I think this is the new normal. Bye now.
It's not so easy maintaining distance, but it has to be done.
And Ross, you're right, it isn't that easy, especially on sidewalks, which aren't that wide. So Ross, when will we know if this physical distancing is working here?
Well, first of all, Mei Jung, I want to be clear. This was for measuring, not for beating people away, although we had a lot of fun doing it, to make a good demonstration for you. You know, we talked to a disease modeling expert says that there's a bit of a lag between what's actually happening now and what will happen 2 weeks from now. Although cases are rising right now, that's what happened 2 weeks ago and what we were doing. But what we're doing now, we'll see the results probably in a week to 2. So that will tell us if we're doing things right.
All right, well, we look forward to seeing if these measures are going to prove effective. Thank you, Ross.
It is Zooming the traditional way.
Gets me around quick.
Not a meeting or a call, but just on a Vespa, all over town.
I feel dangerous.
Deidre Pinnock is a free spirit, an artist who has tried her hand in stand-up comedy.
Woohoo, what a hoot.
And plays the harmonica.
Would you believe it? I have it right here.
But her passion in life, one she credits for saving her life, is knitting. They call you the yarn bomber.
Yeah, the Vancouver, #Vancouver yarn bomber, yeah. I get happiness. I get validation. People see me, honk the horns, give me thumbs up.
The yarn bomber strings up her art pieces anywhere and everywhere. This one at her favorite spot, Dude Chilling Park.
And it all first started with one of my friends committed suicide, and I had to go out there and tell people that you're not alone.
It is less aggressive and permanent than graffiti.
Now I realize that I can put yarn up and I won't get arrested.
There are countless messages of love, kindness, and encouragement. She's making her own impact during COVID-19 and for the Black Lives Matter movement, a movement she says has made a difference in her city.
I think it's better these days. I get smiles like you wouldn't believe. I'm like, what are they smiling at?
This is what you use.
Yeah, people have given me all this yarn.
Deidre is a mental health advocate through yarn.
Yes, very much so.
And she is weaving a therapeutic connection.
I got people talking to me on the street saying, I suffer from mental health as well. And I was like, wow. I do too, and you do too, and wow, we've got something in common. So, yeah, that's why I was out there doing it.
The yarn bomber is one inspiring woman with an incredible infectious laugh and who ties it all together with this.
You need to do what you do best. So if you do drawing, draw. If you do yarn or crochet like I do, get it out there. All done. Just do what you do best creatively, and you'll probably soar in that.
And the yarn bomber could basically hit any neighborhood.
Yeah, coming to you soon.
This is CTV News with Scott Roberts and Mei Jung Lee.
Today, under the direction of the Provincial Health Officer, we are directing all schools to immediately suspend in-class instruction until further notice.
It seemed only a matter of time, and today the BC government made the decision that parents across the province have been waiting for. Classes have now been suspended indefinitely for students in kindergarten to grade 12, and schools will very likely remain closed well after spring break to try to slow the spread of COVID-19. One big question tonight, when or will they reopen this school year?
Good evening. Much more to come on the school closures in just a moment, but we start with breaking news and troubling new numbers on COVID-19 in our province as BC declares a public health emergency.
Today, BC's top doctor announcing 3 new deaths from the virus, bringing the total number of deaths to 7 in BC. The province has also recorded 83 new cases, by far the largest single-day jump, meaning 186 people have now contracted the virus in British Columbia.
Those numbers coming late this afternoon from BC health authorities as they update the spread of the virus.
Let's go to Norma Reed in our breaking news center with a closer look at the situation here in BC. Norma?
And Mijung, while those positive test numbers are up, it's important to understand why there was such a jump today. First, let's take a look at the case numbers. With the 83 new positive cases, BC has a total of 186. Of those cases, 116 are located in the Vancouver Coastal Health Region, 47 in the Fraser Health Region, 12 total cases are found in the Vancouver Island Health Region, and there are 7 cases in the Interior Health Region, plus 4 cases in the Northern Health Region. 3 more people have died in BC due to COVID-19 as well. 2 people connected to the Lynn Valley Care Centre outbreak, and a man in his 80s who died in a Fraser Health Region hospital, bringing the death toll number to 7. Now, with the public health emergency now declared, Dr. Henry and Adrian Dix will have expanded powers during this crisis.
We've taken a number of unprecedented measures in the last few days, and this declaration of an emergency enables me to be faster, more streamlined and nimble in the things that we need to do right now.
The provincial health officer can authorize health officers to perform their duties anywhere in the province, beyond the health authorities, the regions they work in. So the provincial health officer can also compel any and all peace officers to enforce her verbal orders. In addition, it means that I, as health minister, can amend regulations without the consent of the cabinet, and the health minister can make changes to the Public Health Act without the consent of the legislature.
Okay, so now as for those new case numbers, Dr. Henry says that while today was absolutely a large increase in case numbers, it's not reflective of just the new cases tested in the past 24 hours, but includes a large number of people now going for testing, as well as 5 new test sites across the province, with more coming on board. Mijung, Scott?
Thank you, Norma.
The BC government's move to close all public and private schools indefinitely is one of the most significant measures so far in the effort to stop the spread of COVID-19. CTV Shannon Patterson reports on what it means for the rest of the school year.
Nearly every BC public and private school is empty now for spring break, and they're going to stay that way indefinitely.
Today, under the direction of the provincial health officer, we are directing all schools to immediately suspend in-class instruction until further notice.
But the education minister doesn't want the learning to stop. School districts will be expected to implement some sort of online teaching model beginning March 30th.
That'll look different for primary, intermediate, and secondary school students. A lot of classroom teachers contact regularly with parents and students via email already. We have 57 online learning providers in BC. Right now, the entire BC curriculum is available online, so it may be a combination of new types of classroom-based instruction that's electronic, organized through individual teachers. It may be transferring students into registering into online courses.
Some schools may stay open for children of essential service providers, like frontline healthcare workers and first responders who need to go to work.
It would obviously be radically different than what a typical school looks like, but it could be in use practicing safe social distancing and providing some kind of limited school instruction that will allow those frontline workers to continue serving British Columbians.
For now, the province has not ordered daycares to close.
Parents should take comfort in that, but it is an evolving situation, and should the public health officials give us different direction, we'll be taking different actions.
There is no sense of how long this school closure will last.
We don't have all the answers today. We're in a fast-moving situation.
Regardless, students will receive final grades for this year and move into the next grade in the fall, and those in grade 12 will graduate.
We're used to schools being safe places where kids learn and grow and socialize. We have to take action today to protect our students and staff and keep our schools safe.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Vancouver.
The school shut down as parents scrambling for solutions tonight, with many wondering how they can keep working while making sure their children keep getting an education. Maria Weisgarber has that part of the story.
No return to class for the time being has some parents wondering what lies ahead.
I don't even know what to do because I have two kids. One is a special needs boy.
Elizabeth Dean Conte says she'll try to see if she can stay home from work.
I don't know if the government gonna help us, if most of us gonna lose some of pay.
It could be a couple of months. We don't know.
Sue Morfitt is helping with childcare for her family, including her 10-year-old granddaughter.
I mean, it's kind of good because there's no more social gatherings, but at the same time, it's kind of a little disappointing.
I think it's a really good decision. I think it's kind of, rather than piecemeal and having it a little bit here and a little bit there, just have it across the board and then everybody's safe.
Even though students won't be back after the 2-week break, teachers will be going to school. The BC Teachers Federation says they'll be working with districts and the province on ways to continue delivering education. In some cases, that could be online, although the Federation points out not every student may have that kind of access, and models will likely vary from grade to grade and district to district.
We'll do this very carefully, very thoughtfully, and make sure that everyone is treated similarly.
The union says they are also working out ways to support students who rely on meal programs and those with special needs who work with education assistants.
We have some knowns right now. We have a lot more unknowns.
Families are being asked to be patient for those answers as the education system works out a new way to function during the pandemic. Maria Weisgarber, CTV News, New Westminster.
Whether they are facing layoffs or need to take time off work, millions of Canadians are dealing with financial anxiety during this pandemic. That's why the federal and provincial governments are set to announce major economic relief plans. CTV's Binder Sajjan looks into the changes to employment insurance rules and why it's still not clear how everyone who needs help will get it.
With nearly 600 COVID-19 cases in Canada, the number of patients like expectations of government are climbing.
They need to make sure that they're not shortchanging people in this crisis. It's a go big or go home environment, it seems to me.
They is the Trudeau government. BC is pushing for employment insurance checks to be 100% of regular pay and for the program to be extended.
So that would include self-employed, part-time, contractors, and we're certainly hoping that we're going to hear that confirmation tomorrow.
Tomorrow, we will be making another major announcement on economic actions to support Canadians as quickly as possible. By the end of the week, we will have more to say about changes for the upcoming tax season.
I think it's very heartening that that's coming. It can't come fast enough.
Across the country, only Ontario has more cases than BC with 190. Alberta has 97. BC may look to stop evictions and ban late penalties on tax bills for both residents and businesses. Changes are also coming to employment standards.
To protect workers and prevent layoffs in the event that someone has to stay at home to self-isolate, we want to make sure that no one loses their job by doing the right thing.
BC's finance minister is also bracing for the books to take a hit.
I think it's too soon to have specifics. I think there is no question it's going to have a big impact. It is likely we will have a deficit. I think there's no question about that.
So, Binder, we heard there BC is asking for the feds to step up here, but what can the province do right away?
Yeah, well, Carol James says she wants to take a look at what Ottawa is delivering before announcing what BC will do. And her message during a news conference today to British Columbians: we've got your back. And so there's no doubt that some immediate relief is needed, but Carol James says she's also focusing on a long-term strategy together with businesses to make sure that the economy returns to health after this pandemic. Scott?
All right, Binder Sajjan live at the legislature. Thank you, Binder.
With bars and restaurants and many other businesses shutting down to control the spread, many streets and sidewalks that are normally teeming with people are virtually empty right now. Sinjan Alexander is live in Vancouver. And Sinjan, this is a St. Patrick's Day the bar and restaurant industry would like to forget.
I think that everyone would like to forget me, Jung. Look at this place. There's nobody here. Usually it's hopping, especially today on St. Patrick's Day. But look at this. Empty stools, empty tables, no pool, no beer, no music. Clearly, they're heeding the warning. St. Patrick's Day hotspots are either shut for the night or closed entirely until further notice. Surprised, would-be revelers were confused. No wait, no bouncer.
Opening day, that's why I came early, because it's lineup around the corner.
Nobody here at all?
Nobody here at all.
As medical officers urge bars to lock up, governments promise financial help during this difficult time. That's why London pub owner Steve Jennings was so surprised to see men in uniform waiting outside.
I come into my pub to clean it up and get prepared to close it down, and now I've got a bailiff and a locksmith waiting outside.
Jennings admits he owes the government a PST payment, but with business so slow and now a full closure, there's no way he can raise the money in time. Even so, he wonders why the Ministry of Finance would come collecting today, of all days.
Yeah, I'm just so surprised at this point because of what's happening in the world.
The Jansens, owner of the Wheat and Barley, are packing up the kitchen, saying it's just the right thing to do.
I've been thinking about it for a little while now, and I'm from Germany originally, so I see how bad it can really get.
They're a new business, and St. Patrick's Day is one of the most lucrative days of the year.
Now, nobody knows when we will open again, if we will open again.
$22,692.91.
Jennings, with the help of the Restaurant Association, convinced the BC government to cut him some slack. Question now, when will the money and the Guinness flow again? And the good news here, they're giving the pub 30 days to come up with that money. They'll go and see the bailiff and report in. If the pub isn't open, heaven forbid, by then, they get another 30 days. Mija.
All right, some welcome relief for them. Thank you, Sinjin.
The window is closing quickly for Canadians abroad hoping to return home before new measures kick in, keeping anyone with COVID-19 symptoms out of Canada. CTV's David Mulco is live at YVR tonight. And David, you've been talking to Canadians returning and leaving the country.
A couple from Bowen Island happy to be home and ready to embrace self-isolation for the next 2 weeks. And a young professional from Langley now headed back to China.
And I felt good to be back in Canada.
Jack and Surya Rizals just landed 2 weeks early from a 6-week adventure in Mexico.
Going to see a lot of plays, studying Spanish.
But when they heard the Prime Minister on Monday,
If you're abroad, it's time for you to come home.
they moved as quickly as they could.
14 days hibernation.
Yeah, we're going to take it seriously.
We're going to take it very seriously.
And while they're headed to read, meditate, and practice yoga at home on Bowen Island, Jesse Lynch from Langley is checking in for Shanghai.
I'm a product manager at a mobile games company there.
Do you feel China's a safer place to be now than Canada is?
I would argue yes, just because they've been dealing with this for 2 months now.
The airport will never close, come hell, high water, or COVID-19.
But come Wednesday, you'll have to be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident to cross the border, though there are exceptions that include air crews, diplomats, and Americans.
It's not my position to judge whether or not that is the right decision.
While both Jesse Lynch and the Rizals say no matter whether you're coming or going or how you're feeling, all who have to travel have to do their part. Are you worried about flying?
That's honestly the biggest risk, I would say.
People are wanting to pull together more.
Yeah.
People are listening more than I've ever heard them listen, and it makes a difference.
It makes a big difference. Now, if you're a Canadian abroad or you know or have family members who are overseas, this is the information you need right now to contact Global Affairs Canada. +1 613 996 8885 is the phone number. Email Global Affairs sos@international.gc.ca. Remember, if you have symptoms as of Wednesday, you will not be boarding a flight back to Canada, even if you are a Canadian citizen. Coming up later in the newscast, we're going to hear from British Columbians who are stuck overseas, still trying to get home. Scott?
All right, David Mulco live at the airport tonight. Thanks, David.